Hello, what's up YouTube photographer Ronnie Sweat and in this tutorial I'll be showing how you can easily edit a photo in Photoshop as a beginner with no steps skipped. So simply like this video and don't forget to subscribe if at all you're watching and you're not subscribed to this channel. So right now have your photo imported into Photoshop and this is a raw file. A raw file, basically we have two types of photos. We have raw files and JPEG files. So this is a raw file, and as soon as you open a raw file into Photoshop, it's going to open up the camera raw filter. So how to import an image into Photoshop? Simply look for a photo that you want to edit, right click on it, and it's going to automatically, you select open with Photoshop and it's going to automatically open up the camera raw filter. So this is the image taken by Jovin, and he gave me these to try them out. So in order to edit an image into Photoshop, the very first thing is correcting the lighting and contrast issues regarding the image. So for this case, you can see we want first of all correct the white or the lighting and contrast issues. So I'll just come the highlights and drop the highlights down, drop the whites down. I'll open up the shadows slightly. Then I'm going to add contrast to the image. So I'll take the highlights all the way down plus the whites to recover the information in the dress. Then I'll come and add contrast to the image. Take my blacks down. I think that is okay. Then after doing that, I feel like the image is leaning more on the green side. So remember, the opposite of green is magenta. So I'll just take the slider towards the magenta side to eliminate the greens within the image. I think that is okay. And I'll just come and warm up the image slightly to around 5,600 kelvins. I think that is okay. So after correcting the lighting and contrast issues regarding this very image, I'll just come and turn up the vibrance slightly higher to around 6 is fine. Then I'll come to my color mixer, and under this you can manipulate each and every random color regarding your photo or your image. So you can see that we have hue, saturation, and luminance. Hue, by a hue we are simply changing or altering a given color. So if at all we come to the greens and we play around with the hue slider, you can make the greens like the color on top of it, which is the yellows, or you can make the greens look like the color below it, which is the aquas. So basically that is how the hue slider is going to be working. Saturation is the intensity of a given color. You can see you can increase or decrease on the intensity of a given color. Then luminance is the brightness levels of a given color. You can brighten up a color or you can darken a given color. So depending on the colors that you want to change or alter in the image, that is basically what this hue and saturation is all about. So for this case, what do we want to do? We just want to come to the hues, and we're going to play around with the hues of the greens. So I'll make the greens towards the blue side to make them pop. Then I'll do the same basically for my yellows. Yeah, just like that, to complement the skin tones of the model. So if at all it is oversaturated, you can always come to the saturation and reduce on the saturation of the greens, and also reduce on the saturation of the yellows. But we are not yet done. So we are going to intensify the blues in the sky, for example, by coming and taking up the blues, just intensifying the blues, just like that, by taking up the saturation all the way up, then coming the luminous and slightly darkening up to recover the blue sky right there. Then you're going to come to the hues and also change the hue of the blue color just slightly to around, I think negative 32 is fine. And you can play around to see what the aquas is going to be adding to the image. So this is the image before, after so far. So the next thing that we're going to be doing basically, we are going to import the image into Photoshop, and before taking it to Photoshop, simply click right down here. So you left click and it's going to open up the preferences. So usually it open up an image with the right information. Always come and ensure, or make sure that you have all this information right here. The bit depth to 16-bit, and make sure it is set to 300 pixels per inch and the sharpening is checked. Make sure screen is selected and standard is selected, and just come and hit OK. So after you have done that, simply come to open. So left click on the open option, and it's going to open the image into Photoshop for us to do the other stuff like color grading, skin retouching, and also evening out of the skin tones. So the very first thing we tend to do when it comes to Photoshop is first of all cropping the image. So I'm just going to come right here and get the crop tool right here. So this is the crop tool, and choose a ratio of 4:5 or 8:10. So I'm just going to come to 4:5 and just move that up just like that. And after doing that, I'm just going to come and hit return or enter, and it's going to crop the image in the ratio that we want. So anything is going to be working or doing some kind of skin retouching. So in order to retouch this very image, what we want to do, we are simply going to use frequency separation. So skin retouching is basically more of editing the skin and removing pimples or blemishes to have a really nice and perfect skin. So in order to do a skin retouching, we're going to be using frequency separation. And as you can understand, frequency separation divides the image into the high frequency layer and the low frequency layer. In the high frequency layer, we have the textures, and in the low frequency layer, we have the colors. So I'm just going to come right here to the background layer and simply press Ctrl J, or you can use Command J and create those two layers. You can name these to color, and you're going to name the up layer to texture, just like that. So you double click to rename. So hide this, and now select the color layer. Simply come to filter and come to blur, and come down to Gaussian blur right there, and it's going to open up the Gaussian blur window. So look for an area that has more texture, for example the first area in this case, and take up the radius up the point whereby the textures are just starting to disappear from the image. So for this image, I'll be using a radius of around 4 pixels because we don't have enough textures. So you stop at the point whereby you're just starting to lose out on the skin details. So stop at that point whereby the skin textures are just starting to disappear from the image. So simply click OK. Select the texture layer and now activate it by clicking on this eye icon right there. Then come to image and come down to apply image. Just come right here, you can see the source is the name of the image, and the layer, come and select to color. Make sure the channel is set to RGB. Then for the blend mode, we are just going to be using a blend mode of add. Since this is a 16-bit image, opacity at 100%, the scale is 20, offset 0, and simply come and turn on the invert option, and you'll see it is going to add this kind of gray filter, but it is going to be hiding our colors from the image, and it is only going to be having textures or the outlines of the image. But if at all you're dealing with an 8-bit image, these are settings that you have to do. So for an 8-bit image, we don't turn on the invert option. We use the blend mode of subtract. The scale has to be 2 and offset 128. So just type in these values. Then preserve transparency and mask are not checked. So basically that is for an 8-bit image. If at all you have 8 right here. So for mine it is add, because this is a 16-bit image, and I simply turn the invert option, hit OK, change the blend mode from normal and change it all the way down to linear light, just like that. So I'll put these two in a group and press Ctrl G, or you can use Command G. So I'm just going to drag and put them in a group. So double click and you can name that to frequency separation and hit enter. Open up the group, select the color layer, hide the texture layer, and just come and get your mixer brush tool. So the mixer brush tool is going to enable us paint or smoothen out the skin while evening out or unifying the skin tones of the model's skin. So I'm just going to come and select the mixer brush tool. So this is the mixer brush tool. If it is not under the brushes right here, simply left click on this option and you can locate your mixer brush tool there. So when you select the mixer brush tool, make sure the hardness is set to 0, clean brush is selected, and the option that says clean the brush after each and stroke is selected. The weight, make sure the weight is set to 9%, So you can move this slider. Load 75, mix at 90 and the flow 100%. Make sure sample all layers is not turned on. So after doing that, we are simply going to come and start painting on the skin. So in order to unify the skin, make sure you are retouching at a distance. Reduce on the size of the brush by using the bracket key on the keyboard. And if at all your Mr. Brush tool is showing this plus icon, press the caps lock key on the keyboard and simply start mixing colors. So we are painting colors and making sure that we are unifying or creating uniform skin color. So I'm just going to paint right there. Come to this area. So I'm basically trying to create a uniformity between the skin color of our model in this case. I'm just going to come and paint just like that. Come to the face area and unify just like that. You can see I'm using a small brush, mixing colors that are looking alike. So when it comes to the nose area, you can slightly zoom in by using Ctrl plus on the keyboard, or you can use Command plus. And by the how to paint, you left click and hold down and you move the brush. And if at all you're working on another area, release the left click button and paint on another area or a new area. And in that way, you're going to be having even skin tones. So remember, we have selected the color layer. So just come and simply paint just like that. So basically, we are mixing colors and creating a smooth skin for our model right here. Come and paint on the hand area. So basically, you have to paint on each area that has or contains or has skin. So just come to this other hand, increase on the size. So we mix these dark colors alone, and you can start moving the brush the way given area is shaped. So mix this highlight alone, come and mix just like that. Reduce on the size if at all I want to mix a smaller area. So I'm using the bracket keys to increase or decrease on the size of our brush. So I'm just going to mix just like that. And just like that, we are now editing in Photoshop. Come this area and also mix the highlights alone, mix these mid-tones alone, and you can see by just doing that, skin retouching or editing a photo in Photoshop is just going to be very nice, easy and simple. Zoom out by using Command minus, and you can now come and activate the texture layer. And when you zoom in, you can see that you have been able to edit the image while retaining the original skin texture. So this is a before after. I hope you can see the difference. So this is the before, after, before, after. So if at all you have any pimples or blemishes, you can select the texture layer, and after selecting it, get the clone stamp tool right there. So this is the clone stamp tool, or the shortcut is S, and the settings, the hardness has to be 0%, the mode is normal, opacity and the flat 100%. Align this check and simply select current layer right there. And now zoom into the image, and you can hold down the option key on the keyboard, or you can hold down the alternate key on the keyboard, left click to copy clean skin near the blemish, and simply left click over the blemish that you want to clean up or eliminate from the skin. So I'll just be doing this cleaning up, and the next thing is going to be having to create uniform skin color or color grading of the skin, so that we can have a matching skin tone complexion. So right now we are done retouching the skin. So this is a before after, before after. So anything is going to be working on the skin. So just come to the gradient adjustments here and simply select gradient map. Just come and now select the gradient icon. Make sure the icon is selected and hide the layer. So you select the gradient icon and hide the layer. Then left click on the color option. So if I told you it's showing a different color, don't mind about that, because we just want to copy and apply the skin color to this slider. So left click on this pointer. This is going to represent the darkest point of the skin tone, and left click on the color option. Make sure the sample is set 5x5 average. Zoom into the image, and now simply choose the darkest point of the skin tone. So I'll just go with the darkest point of her skin tone right here. So I think let's go with this nose area and hit OK. Left click on the brightest point, then left click on the color option and choose what you feel is the midtones. So I'll go with this as a midtones. So I'll just choose a warm color to represent the midtones. Hit OK. Rather, this is for the highlights. So left click and choose the brightest point of the highlights right there. So I'm just going to choose a random color to represent the highlights on the skin area. So I think that is okay for the highlights. Then click in the middle, make sure the location is set to 50, and left click on the color option and choose the midtones to represent the midtones of the skin. So just come and choose a color to represent my midtones right here. I think this is a better representation. I think that is okay. So after choosing these colors, we're just going to come and hit OK. Then come and activate this layer and change the blend mode from normal and change it all the way down to where it says color. And after doing that, you can see the effect is affecting the overall image. Select this white layer mask and simply press Ctrl I on the keyboard. Just come under the brushes, right click and get the normal brush tool. Make sure the hardness is set to 0 and soft round brush is selected. Opacity in the flat 100%. Make sure you have black and white on these two color swatches. So you can simply press D on the keyboard to have black and white on these color swatches. Then make sure white is the foreground color or the top color. Or you can switch between these two colors by using X on the keyboard, or you can use this arrow. So with white, we can simply increase on the size by using the bracket keys as usual. So we're just going to simply paint on the skin so that we can create that kind of uniformity. So I'm just going to come and paint on only the skin using a brush. Don't mind if at all we paint extras, because we can always, or we are going to correct that later on in this very video. So paint on the skin, and you can see by just doing this, we are creating a nice and uniform skin tone for our model in this case. So I'm just going to come and paint. Take your time while you're trying to paint. So I'm just going to come and paint on the hands or the arms, just like that. I think this is okay. This is fine. Looks great. And the next thing is going to be fine-tuning the areas we may have accidentally painted. So just switch the brush back to black as the foreground color, and black is going to be rubbing the extras. So I'm painting using a black brush to rub away or eliminate the extra areas that I may have painted. So you can see how easy this is. So if at all you don't have capture, you can use this kind of method or technique. So I'll eliminate the color from there, eliminate it from this area right there, from the dress in this area. I think this is okay. Control minus to zoom out. So you can now zoom in and look for those areas that you may have accidentally painted. I think that is okay. Then eliminate it from the lips, just like that. Switch the brush back to white if at all you haven't painted the given area. So I'll switch it back to black and eliminate it from the hair area. And just like that, I'll also eliminate it from the model's eyes. Then get a smaller brush and do the same for the eyebrows. I think we are now done coloring or evening out the skin tones of this model. So this is the before, after, before, after. So after doing that, if at all the effect is too much, you can always come to the opacity and simply reduce on the opacity by taking down the opacity slider, just like that. So next thing, let's now perfect this very image to look better for us. So right now, you're just going to come to the adjustments and simply come to selective color. And now come the blacks right here. Take up the blacks slightly to around, I think 3 is fine. Let's go with around 4. And cool down the image slightly to around negative. Let's go with around negative 6. Negative 6 is okay. And now you can see what we have and how nice the image is. You can always come to the whites and play around to see if at all you can achieve a perfect white color. So I'll just come to the whites and take out the magentas from the whites and see the yellows and take out the yellows from the model's dress, just like that. And by just doing that, you can see how nice and perfect we have gotten the dress to look in this case. So you can even play around with the cyan to see if at all there are some cyans affecting the model's dress. You can see how easy and nice the image has gotten to be. You can even play around with this to see if at all you can have a more precise color grading. So we are now going to come to hue and saturation and simply come to the blend mode and change it to multiply and come and take down the opacity to add a tiny bit of contrast to the image. I think this looks okay. It looks great. So if at all the effect is too much, you can come to the master and simply play around with the master. And let's create one final hue and saturation adjustment layer right there. And we're going to come to the lightness and simply come to the reds right here and simply take down the reds to see what works best for us. So around negative 5, that is okay and that is fine. So let's do a little bit of eye whitening. And before we do the eye whitening, maybe you can even play around with the blues in the image. So I'll just come to selective color once again and simply come to the blues or the cyans and see how we can make the background even look better. But as we're doing this, you can see it is also affecting the dress, and we're going to be perfecting that later on. So play around with the cyans. You can increase or decrease on the cyans, just like that. I think that looks okay. It looks great. So we are going to do the same for the blues, and you can even intensify that even more. So if at all the effect is affecting the dress, make sure this is selected and press Ctrl I and come and get the brush tool. And simply with that, you can now come and paint using a white brush onto the area that we want to have better colors of in the background. So you can see how nice and easy editing a photo is in Photoshop. So after doing that, let's do a little bit of eye whitening. So just come to the adjustments and create one final hue and saturation adjustment layer. Come to saturation and take it all the way down to around negative 78, and that is going to make the image black and white. Close this, make sure the white layer mask is selected and press Ctrl I, or you can use Command I on the keyboard. Get the brush tool, zoom into the image by using Ctrl, or you can use Command plus on the keyboard. And after doing that, reduce on the size by using the bracket keys on the keyboard. And you can now come and paint in the eyes to create this eye, or to whiten the eyes of the model. Just like that, the image is going to be looking nice and great. So right now you can see we have been able to edit the image, and this is what we have done in Photoshop. This is the before, after, before, after, before, after. So after editing, the next thing is going to be saving the image so that it can be a sharp image and a photo that doesn't change in color when we save or post it on social media. So just come to File, Export, and come to Export As. So when you come to Export As, it's going to open up this window, and simply come and select the format to JPEG, quality at 100%, resample to by cubic sharper, and also convert the color space to sRGB and also embed color profile, and simply hit export, and it's going to automatically save the image in the location that we chose to save the photo. And when you're done saving, it is going to automatically close this window and take you back into Photoshop. So this is it for this video. And if at all you have enjoyed this, simply like this video and don't forget to subscribe. If at all you are watching and you're not subscribed yet to this channel, Ronix from Ronix Photography, thank you for watching, and see you yet more videos on this channel. And don't forget to keep practicing and also keep creating.